Joining me now, Leon Panetta, former CIA director and Secretary of Defense in the Obama administration and former White House Chief of Staff to President Clinton. Secretary Panetta, Mr. Panetta, thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. First of all, the president ramping up his pressure on the Supreme Court to try to overturn Joe Biden's victory. Our legal experts, Pete Williams and other legal experts, say it's such a long shot. But how does this hurt Joe Biden's ability? You just heard Shannon say that so many people believe the election was fraudulent, as well as damaging America's reputation for the peaceful transfer of power and for our democratic institutions overseas.
Well, all of this is incredibly harmful to the ability of our democracy to function as it should be functioning. There should be a peaceful transition of power going on. There should be cooperation between this administration and the incoming administration. There should be no question as to who is going to be the next president of the United States. All of that is the way our democracy has functioned in the past. And to raise these issues that have no foundation in truth or fact, and to constantly challenge the results of this election, send a terrible message, not only to the incoming administration that's trying to get to work to deal with the problems that face our country, but it's sending a terrible message abroad to both our allies and our adversaries that there are serious questions about the ability of our democracy to function.
The White House has directed its staff to retain certain records to ensure a smooth transition. So is this an implicit acknowledgement, at least by the chief of staff and others, that they know that the president did not win this election?
Obviously, they're all operating on the fallacy that somehow what happened on the election did not happen. And I think for most people, they understand that after 150 million Americans went to the polls, a record number of people who went to the polls and voted, which was very encouraging, frankly, because the American people, despite all of their polarization and differences, all recognized the importance of their power to vote. And there is absolutely no evidence that there has been any fraud. There is absolutely no evidence that there has been any failure of the system to properly count all of those votes. And so for the president, for the chief of staff, for others, frankly, for 100 or more so Republicans, to pretend that fact is not fact and that truth is not truth raises real questions about the ability of our government to function the way it should. I mean, we've elected a new president. It's time to move on. Everybody recognizes that it's critical for our country to be able to deal with COVID, to be able to deal with a recession, to be able to deal with the challenges we're facing abroad. We have got to move on. We have got to accept reality. We've got to accept truth. And most importantly, we have to accept the reality of how our democracy is supposed to function.
The choice by the president-elect for the incoming defense secretary, his nominee at least, is retired General Lloyd Austin, who's not been out of uniform for the required 7 years. It's requiring a waiver, as you know. This will be the second time in a row that a defense secretary, because it was done for Jim Mattis, would require the waiver. What about the principle of civilian leadership? Do you think it's important in this case, or should it be waived?
Well, I'm a believer in the principle of civilian leadership. I think that was built into the law, the National Security Act. There was a recognition that there should be civilian oversight. There should be a civilian control with regards to the Department of Defense. But the law also provided, unfortunately, for a waiver. And that waiver was granted not only to George Marshall, but it was granted to Jim Mattis. And I find it difficult to say that it's okay to grant a waiver to Jim Mattis, but somehow it's not okay to grant a waiver to the first black Secretary of Defense in our history. I do think, however, that I think the Congress needs to consider whether or not ultimately they should get rid of that waiver, because we have got to return ultimately to the principle of civilian leadership at the Department of Defense.
They're now voting, the Senate is finally voting on the Defense Authorization Act as we speak. And the president has threatened to veto it, in part because it includes changing the names of those Army bases, mostly Army bases in the South, named for Confederate military leaders. What do you think about, first of all, getting rid of the Confederate names, and shouldn't that have been done a long time ago?
Well, the time is long overdue to go back and try to recognize that it's time to move into the 21st century and to look at those names and try to rename them, to the heroes of the 21st century, not the heroes of the past. So I think the Congress is taking the right step. The former Secretary of Defense supported that change. The committees have supported that change. And I feel very good about the fact that the House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed the defense authorization bill with that language, and I'm confident that the Senate will do the same. It'll send a signal to the president that the rest of us have to move on into the 21st century and not live in the past.
Leon Panetta, thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.